All right, fifth graders, I am here to do some review with you. We are officially done going through all of the modules and lessons for fifth grade. So at this point in the year, we would do some review normally. And so we are starting back all the way at the beginning of the year. And if you remember correctly, the beginning of the year was place value. We are going to be depending on our place value chart a lot this week. It is my suggestion that you take a piece of paper or your notebooks that were provided to you and draw out a place value chart and put it in front of you. Just having that in front of you is going to help you remember all these things. Not only am I going to work on the problems with you, but we're going to be talking about the actual place value during this lesson. So we are on week of 427, day 1. So if you're doing this in order, this should be Monday, April 27th. It's day 1. I do suggest that you do all of these snapshot assessments. They say assessment on there. They are not an assessment. They're just showing us what you know in order because they build on each other. So if you can get today's, it'll make tomorrow's easier and so on and so forth. So let's look at number 1 first. It says in the number 42,293, what is the difference between the 2 in the thousands place and the column to its right? So I'm first going to make my place value chart. So remember we make one for a decimal, but it's not actually a place value. So I have my ones, my tens, my hundreds, my thousands, and my 10,000s, and so I'm going to stop right now. And then after my decimal point, I have a tenth, a hundredth, and then I've gone on to my thousandths, but that's where I'm going to stop right now. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this 42,293. It does not have a decimal point, so I'm going to know it. I know automatically that it starts in my ones. So 3, 9, 2, 2, 4. Okay, so now I've placed it into my place value chart, which is going to help me just determine the differences between this 2 in the thousands place and this 2 to its right. So what are the things that we can say are different between the two? Do they have the same value? Are these both just worth 2? Well, no, we know that they're not just worth 2 because the 2 in the thousands place is actually worth 2,000 ones, right? And how much is this 2 worth? It's worth 200. So I know we've compared this to money a lot. The difference between $2,000 and $200 is a big difference. And so we want to make sure that we understand our place values because it can definitely change the value of our numbers just by putting them in one spot different. Okay? We know that 200 times 10 equals 2,000. And so we know that the thousands place is 10 times the value of the hundreds place. I want you to think about any other way that you could describe this. If you can think of some different ways to describe this, I would love to hear about it. Okay, 2, the difference in the number, or I'm sorry, not the difference, in the number 4 and 42 hundredths, what is the difference between the 4 in the tenths place and the 4 to its left? So once again, I'm going to make my place value chart. I definitely know I need that decimal place value in there. Knowing my place value also really helps me say a number correctly. So I have my ones and my tens, and I have my tenths and my hundredths. Okay, and I'm going to insert that. I have 4 my decimal place value, this is not an actual place value, it's just a holder. For and remember we always say this as and when I'm using the correct vocabulary. For and 42/100th. I know how to say this decimal because I say it with the last place value. So not 4/10ths and 2/100ths, it's 42/100ths. Okay. So what's the difference? It's asking you to look at the 4 in the tenths place. So this is the 4 in the tenths place, right? And the number to its left. What's the difference between those two numbers? They're both 4. They're both a 4 there, but are they worth the same amount? No, this one is worth 4 whole, and this 4/10ths is worth 4/10ths. And another way that we can write that is 4/10 or 4/10ths. So that's the same way to write those two numbers. So they're definitely not the same value. If I was looking at this as money, this is $4 and this is 40 cents. So a big difference between the two overall. Okay, how can we describe these? Well, once again, we talked about how the ones place over here, if we go back to number 2, the hundreds place is 10 times, or the thousands place, I'm sorry, is 10 times the hundreds place. Well, the tenths, or my ones is 10 times the tenths place. If I were to take 4/10ths and multiply it by 10, it would equal 40/10, which equals 4, right? So it's 10 times the value. So we'll say the ones place value is 10 times the value of the tenths place. Okay. What number is 10 times greater than 9 3/500ths? Oh, this goes back with what we were just talking about. So as always with these, I'm going to draw out my place value chart. I have my ones, tens, hundreds, tenths, hundreds, and my decimal. So I'm going to write that 9 3/500ths. Oh, I messed that up. Sorry about that. 9 3/500ths. Because remember, my decimal point is read as and. 9 3/500ths. So I'm going to think back to this. I said the ones place value is 10 times the tenth. So if I take 5/100ths and multiply it by 10, what happens? It shifts 1 to the left. If I take 3/10ths and I multiply it by 10, then I'm going to get 3 whole. If I take 9 and multiply it by 90, or by 10, I get 90, which goes right here, right? So that 9 would just come over here. So then my final number would be 93 5/10ths. All I'm doing is shifting over one number, or multiplying by 10, to get 10 times greater than the original number. So 10 times more than 9 3/500ths is 93 5/10ths. All right, and the last one for today. What number is 1/10 as much as 23? So first of all, I'm going to make my decimal, or not my decimal, my place value chart. I have ones and tens here, tenths and hundreds. Okay, I'm going to enter my 23. What number is 1/10 as much as 23? So 1/10, I'm actually making it smaller. If I'm making it smaller, I'm actually shifting this way. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm actually going to be dividing. 3 divided by 1/10 really just has me bring my numbers to the right. And then that 10 divided by 1/10 becomes, or not 10, but 20 divided by 1/10 becomes 2. So then my final number would be 2 3/10. So I'm just doing the opposite when I divide, right? So multiplying, I shift everything to the left. Dividing, I shift everything to the right. Notice that it makes sense. Division, your number gets smaller. Multiplication, your number gets bigger. All right, that is all for today. We will be reviewing throughout the week. I'm hoping that this helps give you a good refresher on place value from the beginning of the year. As always, join in on our office hours or ask your teacher if you need any help with any of this. We are here to help, and we miss you guys a ton.